Yes, we're ready to start streaming.
Tony Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Let's go.
Good morning.
Okay.
And here we are again. I cut off the let's get this show on the road. Excuse me. 5:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, August 15th in the calendar year 2021 in the former United States. And I'm going to take a sip of my coffee if you don't mind. Or I should say a slurp. Nice and hot. Not too hot to burn. Just right, like the porridge in that fairy tale story. There was some story, anyway.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
There was some story on one of the, I don't know if it was Amazon Prime or one of the pay channels, where they took nursery rhymes and they kind of took the characters from the nursery rhyme and very loosely based the story, like Little Red Riding Hood and that kind of nonsense. And the first, there was I saw 2 seasons or whatever, and the first one was pretty good. The second one was the first one was successful because they rushed together this other one, and I don't know what fairy tales they found or what they were trying to do, but there were a few familiarities and characterizations, but that was about it. There was something else that I saw recently that they had based on, the characters were this. Oh, I know what it was. No, this is totally in a different vein. I recently rewatched the original Casino Royale. The one with Peter Sellers, David Niven, and Ursula Andress, and I think her name was Barbara Boucher. I mean, the women in that, and that whoever that girl was that played Mata Hari's daughter, James Bond's and Mata Hari's daughter. Please help me. I mean, those are the pictures. That's the picture I need to find. Let's see here. New window. I know I shouldn't be doing this first thing, but we have a lot of more serious things to talk about. But whatever. You got to enjoy life too. Original Casino Royale. Let's see what happens and see what kind of images may show up. Orson Welles was in that too. I forgot. But let's see if they've got any. The Mata Hari girl picture. I didn't even know the actress's name. I apologize. I don't even know if she's still around. There's a Barbara Boucher picture. I really can't show you this stuff is the way that this thing works. But actually, here's some kind of weird thing. Let's say. Depends on what the size of it is. That's only 400. What's the size of this file? Nah. These are promotional pictures that I'm looking at, and I was just trying to get you something to give you an idea. But one of the most, I wouldn't say underrated actresses, and, but maybe I would say that. unknown, should I say, or under the radar, kind of like my show, Under the Radar. Let's just bring out this one. I'm just going to throw this in. By the way, hello world. The title of this show is Tony Caravan Live 8/15/21, Solving the Problem, in quotation marks, Part 2, The List. And if you watched yesterday's show or if you read the open letter I sent, you understand what I'm talking about. I'm just going to temporarily throw in an image here to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Image, browse. James Bond. Actually, I better cancel this. I have to make sure I unload image before I bring it up. If you don't do that, otherwise you get a problem with this. The way this program works, it'll keep it loaded and it will boost your CPU. James Bond, David Niven, Barbara Boucher. Okay. All right, here they are. That is Barbara Boucher. People forget about David Niven, and I'm being very kind here because I'm not showing Barbara Boucher's body because she just has like a body and a half. I mean, literally. I mean, she's just like gorgeous. I love those 60s movies, and I love those 60s actresses, you know. And that was pure pop culture, you know, like people didn't take themselves too seriously at all. But what I was getting to is that what I hadn't realized is how much, I mean, it was loosely based on the Ian Fleming book, Casino Royale, but I didn't realize that they pulled in things like, in other words, the girl's name was Vesper, the police guy or whatever was Mathis. In other words, suddenly I was hearing these names, like, I know I've heard that name before, and I realized they were the actual, so they did, in effect, the characters were taken from the original Ian Fleming book. It's just that they turned it into a farce, a crazy, it was just insane movie. I highly recommend it if you want to kill an hour and a half or however long the darn thing is. It's just a bunch of insane goofiness. I mean, whatever. Anyway, it's still
Weekend.
But really, it's not so much the weekend weather as just
The Weather Watch forecast.
So let's take a look at the climate. All right. And here's what's happening. In the former United States of America. This was issued 4:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it's 5:17 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I guess. Do I say Eastern Standard Time or Daylight Time? But anyway, in other words, this is pretty much done within the last 20-some minutes. From NOAA and the National Weather Service and a bunch of other people who do this. So it's looking like there's going to be rain up in Pennsylvania, Ohio area, and up on the eastern North Dakota, western Minnesota, and along the coast of Oregon, Washington, and a little bit of northern California. No major surprises there. They're saying there's some critical fire weather possible up in Montana, and pretty much the southern states where are going to be rain and the possibility of thunderstorms, though there's heavy rain and flash flooding possible in northern Carolina, eastern Tennessee, a good chunk of Kentucky, and up into Virginia. And there's still a bunch of lows down south, and Tropical Storm Grace is now, has come onto the radar. And, we had that large earthquake in Haiti just the other day. And so, this tropical storm Grace, depending on whether it decides to slide through into that area of Haiti, that could turn, what's already been a tragedy into even a worse tragedy, It's all you need is a storm and winds blowing around and rain on top of, a tragic hurricane. I mean, a tragic earthquake. But a tropical storm is the only good thing about it is this. Well, last time I looked, it was moving at a pretty good clip. So that's what's happening with that. In my neck of the woods in the mid-Atlantic states, currently it's about 64 degrees outside. It was good sleeping weather, though I took a melatonin. I'm still kind of messing around with that. It really does help you, get a solid night's sleep. So I don't know. It's like any kind of vitamin or any kind of thing like that. You just don't want to, me personally, I just don't want to take, get in the habit of taking it all the time. Today's going to be a high of 77 here, a low of 64 overnight, which is going to be nice again. And the upcoming week, it's looking like 75 tomorrow, 66 overnight. And then we get back up into the high 70s, low 80s, and at nighttime it's pretty much going to be room temperature. So no good sleeping weather there. So anyway, that's your
The Weather Watch forecast.
And that's that. So let's get back into the show. And here I am. Here he is. That's right, sweetheart. As he used to say before,
Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
Anyway, yesterday I got into this. I kicked things off with a image of the day, and I didn't create a new image of the day. And the image of the day was this Mercury News article about this Apple homeless encampment that's growing on their property, and that which prompted me to write an open letter to Apple, dealing with how to solve that problem, and maybe that it could be a model ultimately to be used elsewhere in the U.S. And incorporated in part of that thing was nobody wants to look at Barbara Boucher that way again. We want to see us like a full picture of Barbara Boucher. I guess what we really would like to see is like something like Barbara Boucher in this context, but that's not Barbara Boucher. That's our Amazon bikini that's, I think, unless they're sold out of it on Amazon, that's still for sale. Summer's still with us for another month or so, until the equinox in September 22nd. So, you can still get that. And wear it proudly if you are, well, certainly if you look like that. Tony Caravan Live, as it says. So, anyway, and it's a crazy show. Let's not pretend that we're too serious or that I've gone serious on you, because I haven't.
Really funny. Really funny.
Yeah. It's still really funny. I mean, you've got to laugh, all right? You have to laugh. If you can't laugh, I don't know what. And this show mostly deals with consciousness, creativity, and that sort of thing. And, in effect, it always is problem solving because, I've always talking, it's always, a bit of my anecdotal life travels, the adventures of me, right? And then, of course, we'll get into
This is insane. This is insane.
all this insanity that's going on around us. But for the most part, the shows are pretty good.
Funky.
Yeah, they're funky. So today I wanted to talk about, if we look at the image of the day, we'll get into a little bit more of that. But really what I wanted to do is show this title card. And the title card says likes, pros, goals, and then there's a line drawn down the middle of the page, and it says dislikes, cons, like pros and cons, not like as con artist, though con artist would be a con. And so under likes would be my freedom, the sunshine, good music, whatever your likes are. I just put these down as just examples, and things that people dislike. Being homeless, being broke, being afraid, no friends, posers, fakers, lies, liars, that sort of thing. And, in my open letter, I didn't necessarily mention that this specifically was one of the things, but in my video yesterday, I have mentioned this concept that I would like to see counselors use when you're dealing with people that are going through these traumatic life events such as homelessness. And it also could just be any sort of problem that they're going through in life, and this is something that works. It helps you. You need to have, I'm not giving you psychological advice here. This isn't medical advice. This is just personal. This is something that has worked for me, for people I know, and is kind of one of those just basic things. Okay? This is, the basic ways of opening your mind. It's a suggestion. It's just an idea. It's not something, you don't feel compelled to do this or anything. In other words, people in this world, some of us, try to find solutions to problems. And, most problems come from within, or we're in a position where, where that problem can be amplified. Now, that's not to say that there aren't victims. Of course, there are victims. The world is filled with victims. The U.S. has an unbelievable amount of victims of all sorts of crimes. Like I said before, there's 90,000 plus homicides a year in the United States, the majority of which go unsolved. That's a scary statistic. I don't know what's scarier, the fact that 90,000 homicides occur every year, or that most of them go unsolved. It's the unsolved parts that's kind of scary. That means you don't know who around you got away with murder, right? It could be a coworker, it could be the person next door. I mean, that's scarier to me than the fact that you actually know, that this is going on. It's the same with disappearances. There's something like 600,000 some people disappear every year, vanish. About 500,000 of those people are either found or figured out. The case is somewhat closed, or, is put in some category of where they believe this is what probably happened, or something along those lines. However, out of that vast amount of people, there's still some like 90,000 of those, which is strange that the number is similar to the homicide thing. There's some 90,000 disappearances that are completely, and I've talked about this on a couple of shows, completely like baffling to those investigating. In other words, they don't even have like the 500,000 doesn't mean they found every one of those missing people. Out of the 600 some people, 600 some thousand that disappear every year, right? But some are runaways, some are, they believe, fell into a sinkhole at a national park, got married, ran away from their spouse, left the country, whatever. There's all sorts of solutions, that they come up with. Some that they're proved, some that they just have circumstantial evidence or things point in a certain direction that they basically close the case file and say there's a good possibility that this is what happened with that individual. But there's like some 90,000 of those people that vanish. It simply vanish and they don't even have a clue. Right? They never were at a park, so it's unlikely that they fell in a hole in a park. They, were happily married, or they weren't near any this, that, the other. I mean, there's not even an idea, and that's kind of scary too. So there's a lot of scary stuff out there, and there's a lot of victims out there of all kinds of crimes, not just homicides, disappearances, but, theft, assault, you name it. Go down the list. Coffee. So I came up with this idea many, many years ago. And I mean many, many years ago, like 35 years ago. When I was dealing with someone who was like confused and didn't really know what was going on and what direction to take with their life. They were kind of somewhat semi-lost. I'm not going to get into naming names or anything. And I don't know how I came upon this, if it just dawned on me, or if it's one of those universal things that, we all, that's just just so logical that, anyone, trying to think this thing out or to help some individual would come up with. And so, after trying to talk out these things with this person that seemed to be unhappy with their life and more or less, kind of lost and directionless, right? And the reason I have like being homeless on the right-hand column there, that they weren't in the particularly homeless. They weren't particularly broke. But the idea is that, that's the next step, or it's one of the major factors that, that's plaguing millions of people in this country. And it seems to be, its life spirals down to that degree when we find ourselves in, in negative territory, right? Negativism. And so my thought was to this person, I said, look, you got to make a list. You got to take a piece of paper. You got to draw a line down the middle of it. And those who watch this show have heard me say this before, but, I always have this vision, since so few people watch this program, that, literally every time I broadcast, there's probably a different person watching. So these things bear repeating. And even if you have seen this or heard this before, this helps it sink in. And maybe this will help you, or you can share this with somebody else. Because visualization and seeing the big picture is a time-proven way to solve problems, right? It's like, just getting back to the crime thing, for example, again, like, we talk about missing persons or whatever. One of the most common things that is done is they create a board. They have a whiteboard or a chalkboard or some kind of something they stick pins on, and they post a picture of the person, a map, right? Draw circles, where the person was last seen, and they stand back and they look, and it's the idea of seeing a visualization, the big picture, and then talking about that, because now you can see it. And see, a lot of times people don't. Such a simple idea is what traps some person in, in this ball, wrap themselves in a ball and huddle into a corner and cry because they can't, they can't see, the big picture. And if you can't see the big picture, you can't see a way out. You can't see a solution to the problem. Or you might not even realize what the problem really is, and then therefore understand the intensity of that problem and whether or not that problem's even solvable. Okay? So you just become frustration, develops into depression, and depression just takes you down a very bad path. And it doesn't have to be that way. So something as simple as a piece of paper, a piece of scrap paper, the back of an envelope, the back of a ridiculous credit card offer you got in the mail, that you just draw a line down the middle of it. Okay, and you write at the top the things you like, likes, the pros. Pros meaning the pros and cons of your current existence, where you live, what you're doing, your job, right? And add to that positive side, the left side being the positive side, your likes, the pros of things, the good things. Excuse me. It's another morning. We're going to be clearing the throat many times, so I apologize. And then your goals, because if this side, many times people feel like I have nothing to live for, or my life stinks, right? Life sucks, man. My job sucks. Everything sucks, right? So my suggestion is the first thing you do on this side is write down the likes, the pros and goals, the good things, right? You like a good cup of coffee. It may sound insignificant, okay? I like my coffee, right? You may make it yourself, or you may get it at some place. I like going to get my coffee in the morning and having some kind of, bagel or Danish with it. Again, this may sound insignificant, and that's why this list isn't 3 things like my freedom, the sunshine, good music. I just scribble this down just real quick to give you an example of what the page should look like, not the things, okay? And so you start writing down these likes, because remember, you're in a state where you say, life sucks, man. I hate my job. My girlfriend just broke up with me. I'm broke. I can't afford the rent. All my friends are, I don't know. I don't even know if I can trust them anymore. I'm tired of all the posers and fakers out there, the lies and the media, all of it, right? See, it's so easy to on that dislikes and cons side, to come up with a million reasons. And you've talked to somebody who's been down on their luck and down and out, and that's it. And that's where their head's at. And maybe you've been there yourself. In fact, probably we've all been there. I mean, one way or another, whether you want to admit it or not. And so what I say is start with the little things that you like, right? So you like a sunny day. You know, you could be like that song, I'm only happy when it rains. Okay, great. You love to hear the rain, sound of the rain. That's a like, right? I like good music. I like this band, you know. I like watching Tony Caravan on the morning show, right?
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
But I mean, there are things you like, but you're not thinking about it because you're allowing yourself to be overwhelmed with the negatives. Now, that's not to say that you don't, that you don't have negatives in your life. And the negatives may well outweigh the positives. I mean, that's what puts you in this state where you're just feeling bad, and helpless, right? Like life is helpless. It's useless. So, and like it's game over. I guess that's the wrong image for me to have up at this point. But that has to do with, that's a contributor because, we're surrounded by negativism in the media, right? What I call a corporatocracy, what used to be the U.S., now seems to be just taken over by these, ridiculous, insane people for insane reasons, like John Lennon said, right? The world's run by insane people for insane reasons, whatever that quote is. I'm paraphrasing. But he's right. It's a true quote. So when you do this thing, like I have up on the screen, which is the title card of today's show, you will see at a glance, just like they do in, cop shops, police stations, when they're doing an investigation, they put everything up on the board. It's the same thing they do in the corporate boardrooms or rooms where they're trying to solve problems, or at agencies, right? Where they're trying to look at their product, or people developing an app or a game, right? And so they put up the board, right? And the people sit around and they see this so that they can all see it at a glance, right? That's the key. And this is one of the failings of this device, these devices, is that even if you could fit something like this on here, which I'm trying to reflect in the screen here, you don't have that really big picture, okay? And something that you could keep adding to. I have multiple in my place. I don't use them as much as I used to because I'm retired, more or less, as I say.
I've resigned. I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered.
But that's just my thing. And one of my solutions that I've come up with to be free. But I have, old-fashioned cork boards, with stick pins. And when I used to be doing things, well, I still use one. I have one over here. I have calendars on it and things that have schedules on them or things that have to be done, and even take out food menus, right? Right by my door. And I have one behind another door that's completely blank now because I used to use it for other stuff and I just no longer have a need for that. So it's just been sitting on the back of that door for a couple of years. I just never even took it off. I should probably move it up to my bedroom or something, and because I think it's important. It's like the old fashioned. Grab this. The old fashioned Post-it notes, right? I know the computer, the smartphone, and apps have tried to take the place of all of this type of stuff, and we have voice assistants now that, remind us, wake us and tell us all this stuff. And we have calendar apps, the whole 9 yards. But there are certain things, and the tech people aren't going to like this necessarily, but there are certain things that technology, and this, particularly this miniaturization of technology, doesn't help us in certain areas. You see? That's why I believe that the smartphone days are numbered. And I really do believe, it's the classic thing. Never allow a good reference to Star Trek go away, Hey, Scotty, I'm trying to tell these people about this thing. Maybe you can help them out. Are you there, Scotty? Oh, I forgot. He's not there anymore. But the idea is that, the communicator basically is why we had the flip phone before we had the iPhone. All right? It was a Star Trek communicator. All right? I mean, remember the Jeffries tube, if you're an original Star Trek fan, the original Star Trek TOS. Jeffries was the art director on the original series. They used to call it the Jeffries tube just because, it was a tribute to him, more or less. They probably didn't have a name, and he came up with it, and they go, well, we'll just call it the Jeffries tube. That was where they crawled in to access certain parts of the ship. Cross, antimatter and all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that it was science fiction writers over the years that ultimately gave way through their creative thinking, their consciousness. Okay, this thing I'm constantly trying to bring home to people. Not the bioelectric brain. All right, this thing that you go through indoctrination, conditioning through school systems, the nanny state, so to speak, right? This programmable jello mold inside your thick skull. No, your consciousness, the hard problem of consciousness, that which is that is the mind, the thing that takes into consideration all of these senses and where creativity, is born. Consciousness, right? Not the programmable brain. All right, subconscious. Your subconscious tends to work against you. Most people who are depressed, it's their subconscious that's like, is there bad Jiminy Cricket type of thing or whatever. Or like in that movie Animal House where the guy had the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the one shoulder, and the devil was saying, ever, right? So, and I get in these tangents sometimes and I lose track. But what I'm getting at is that this idea of technology, solving every problem, with the current technology is not going to solve every problem. And so when you look at science fiction, classic science fiction, you go back to Philip K. Dick and you go with like Minority Report. I think that was one of the first times where they really had, where the screen was kind of like a holographic thing, but not so much holographic because it was really only 2D, but that people were just doing this sort of thing, like moving in the computer. So the computer didn't exist on a monitor, rather the computer existed literally in the air. Okay, it was a projection, all right? But it was a projection like those keyboards that they've had a long time ago that were basically air keyboards. So in other words, you had this keyboard. I'm going to take down this title card just for a second. You had this keyboard that was on your desk that was basically a projection. But because of the location it was on, you could type on it, and it would, in effect, be type. That text would appear on whatever device you were using. In some cases, most cases, it was a tablet. don't know if people still use those things anymore because now they have these cases that are keyboards, etc. But it was a projection that responded. It's no different than a wireless mouse, right? Or even a wireless, remote. Okay, it's the idea that through some infrared or through some Wi-Fi signal or Bluetooth or some sort of whatever it is, you're able to take deal with a spatial area, all right? And by doing a certain thing, you can affect another thing that's somewhere else. And so what I've tried to say, there's two takeaways from this I'm trying to get at. One is the idea of seeing the big picture to solve a problem. All right. Certain things just will not be solved in a small smartphone. All right. In a calendar. That's why I still make wall calendars. I have them on my wall right now. That's one of the things I do, as a hobby, because I don't do, I used to do design things for people for years. So I still design. I mean, I have the software, I have the computers, and I have the creative impulse to design. So what do? I design things for myself now or for a friend. So every month I make, and right now I have 3 months up there. I have August, September, October on my cork board that I previously described. So I could see at a glance the next 3 months, and if I have an appointment or something I'm going to do or whatever, it's right in my face. I don't have to wait for a 2-week notification to come on my smartphone or, whatever. I could look at a glance and get in. And I also have them in I told you my kitchen is like kind of like a bar instead of like the traditional kitchen counter. And so on my refrigerator, I always have like at least 2 months calendars. So right now there's August and September there. So I could sit there, even if I'm just sitting at the bar counter, so to speak, eating my lunch, listening to some music through my Echo Dot or whatever. I'm glancing over behind the bar where the refrigerator is, and I can see, okay, there's where Labor Day is. Here's something that's coming up in September. And see, it's at a glance. And so people think that this is one of the failings of the smartphone and even the tablet, because it's too small and it's a problem with apps. But there's a simple solution to it, is that the next generation is going to eliminate those things. I mean, that's why, the watch is an interesting idea, the Apple Watch, because you carry around this stuff with you and you have access to information. I don't think that's going away anytime soon, right? And then they have this thing, augmented reality, which, companies are working on. I've seen some incredible augmented reality. And this is different than like the Oculus virtual reality headsets, all right? They're one thing and they're good for gaming and like putting you in a specific place. They're even good for like exercising, I guess, on a, some sort of treadmill where you could be actually jogging along this, particular path or rock climbing or something like that. But the point is you still have this like bulky thing, on your head and everything. And the next phase is to eliminate that bulky thing. It has to be more natural, like in Philip K. Dick's Minority Report, right? And other science fiction since then. But, you have to attribute him with that, in my mind anyway. But anyway, so that'll probably be the next step, and whoever comes out with that in some way, that it works seamlessly and can be integrated into, the average person's life and deals with problems of, lighting, and other issues, that will be the next technology to take over. And just as many of the things we have now that people think are would have been thought as utterly impossible and preposterous 20, 25 years ago, well, now we have them and they work. So, that's where we're heading. But the reason I got on that tangent was I was trying to say it's still the big picture. And that would solve the problem of the smartphone and of apps and of tablets, and even laptops for that matter. Because people still need, I don't care where you go, anywhere in Silicon Valley, anywhere in some New York, center of finance, government, law enforcement, somewhere in their building or multiple places in their offices, whatever, they are going to have a conference room or some sort of rooms where they've got things on the wall so people could stand there, step back, and discuss and look and see the big picture. All right? And that is a time-proven way in which we solve problems. So what I'm saying is, that is the next big thing, and it could happen this fall, it could happen next spring, but it's not that far away. And whatever tech company figures that out, right, is going to make a fortune. And you'll say, yeah, but I'll never get rid of my eye. Yeah, famous last words. It's the same with the voice assistants right now, with the Alexa and things like that. Once they incorporate AI technology like that company Replica with a K, all right, where they could become more conversational, and have more access, be allowed to be more AI-like instead of being restricted, all right? To this, like you have to say its name, like Siri's the same way. Siri, what is whatever? Siri, open up such and such. No. You want to have a back and forth. And you want that thing to be able to keep a log, a journal of its interactions with you, which I know these things do, right? They're always collecting data. But that it can draw on and it can utilize that in its next interaction with you. So it's getting to know you personally. Do you see? And once they do that, they've been afraid to do that, and I don't know why. I don't see what the fear is. There's this fear of AI, and it's like totally unwarranted. I think it's like Elon Musk is the guy the culprit behind that. He's got AI is going to turn the world into like gray goo or something. It's like, no, AI is a great tool that's not being utilized at all. I mean, we're just scratching the surface of it. We're not using GPT-3 capabilities, the current state, and who knows, we're probably beyond that at this point. We're simply not using AI to its full potential, which would be very helpful to us, right? So it's not just a matter of like command, because again, this is another copy from Star Trek. Computer, what's the location of the of the Romulan ship, right? Computer, calculate the odds of. You see what I mean? It shouldn't be that way. It should be, you should be able to converse with the computer. Like going back to Star Trek, like that one where the guy actually had the computer where he put his own engrams on there, if you remember that. This show's really for people that are Star Trek fans. Sorry. You got to be. It was probably one of the most important shows of our generation, really, as silly as some of the episodes were. But getting back to this thing on the screen, the title card, and this way of dealing with problems, problem solving, is that now this isn't some 2D, projection. This isn't a holographic idea. This is something, like I said, you could do on the back of an envelope, or just a piece of scrap paper. You just draw a line down the middle of a sheet of paper. And on one side are your likes, the pros and goals and good things and all that. And the other side are the dislikes and the cons and, what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy, those type of things. That's the differentiation line in the middle. Is what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy. What do you like, what do you dislike, all right? What are the pros about your life right now, your job right now? What are the cons, right? What are your goals, right? And so forget about my freedom, the sunshine, good music, the things I've written here. These are just things, Point of the matter is that you need to see this, visualize it. Because you're not going to hold all that information in here or have it in a computer, a little tiny screen, and have to just type things to it and get it. No, this is something that's got to be in your face. Something you got to keep on, like the table where your kitchen table, if you're one of those type of people that sits at a kitchen table, or if you have a desk in your house or even your bedside nightstand or something. Something you can add to. You're not going. This isn't. You don't solve life problems in one day. Okay, it doesn't work that way. All right, but at the same token, you don't drag on solving problems. Okay, it's one of the things about people that get in long-term therapy. All right, if you have serious mental illness issues, well, I guess, that's something to talk to a psychiatrist about and a mental health professional. But generally speaking, the types of things I'm talking about are solvable problems that don't need to be dragged out. Okay? If you're at your wit's end, then seek help, by either a mental health professional or a medical professional. All right. But if you're just down and out, feeling bad, you don't like the way your life's going, right? You're a little overwhelmed, you're stressed out and things like that. Well, yeah, you could go and, go into therapy every week and see somebody for the next 2 years and whatever, if you want to do it. You could do that either way. But what I'm saying here is you could also try to look at the big picture here of your life and in your face see if, figure it out. I mean, that's what big tech is really doing with all the data collection. All they're trying to do is create a demographic profile of you. For, again, to get back to Philip K. Dick, is for predictive behavior. They want to predict what products you're going to buy. They want to predict, who's going to buy what. They want to know how many of a product they should manufacture based upon their data collection, because they understand the market and the individual. So they say, well, according to our research, it looks like we probably move 1.2 million of these. Why manufacture 2 million things? Then you lose money. Those things sit on the shelf. A new thing comes along and you have a loss. So you didn't make a profit. Businesses do this kind of thing all the time. That's what data collection is all about. It's for profit, right? Most people think it's invasion of privacy and it's for, Big Brother and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, those the alphabet agencies got their hands on that stuff. They've always had their hands on that stuff. And yeah, they love Facebook, Google, and Twitter, and Apple, right? Even though Apple tries to have privacy policies. But they love the fact that all this data is being collected because that allows them to create profiles and again, then they do their predictive behavior. And Philip K. Dick's, again, Minority Report, pre-crime, right? But that's not it. That's not the main push here. And people have to get that through their head. Yes, there are nefarious forces out there that have basically, who would love us and who seem to be pushing us into a totalitarian state. All you have to do is look around and see what's happened, and it's like that's pretty obvious. But at the same time, the idea is information. It's not power. Information is money to businesses. And so what I'm getting at is that if they find this valuable, all right, time proven again and again, all of these agencies and corporations that have studied this for decades and decades, and it works for them, well, why wouldn't it work for you? You see? It's like when I used to consult small businesses when I was in the advertising business. I would take a business that was trying to do a certain thing. And I would say to them, don't reinvent the wheel. I said, look at some of the big national companies. These people have had, they don't do it as much as they used to in the old days because information you can purchase information now. But they used to have, bring people in a room and have focus groups, this, that, the other, to figure out what people like, what their likes and dislikes were, and all this sort of stuff, and how to launch a product, and all of that stuff. What a commercial should, what you should show. And so I used to say, if you were in the food business, I could remember having restaurants, fairly successful restaurants, restaurants that did, in the millions, but they still were not compared to the big national company, chains that did mega millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And I would see their commercial. They would come to me because they weren't selling as much as, they had empty tables or whatever. Sorry about that. And I would say to them, okay, well, here's the let's just look at some obvious problems. Here's your commercial. Here's your advertisement. And they've got the name of their restaurant and some stupid slogan, a picture of themselves, right? We've been in business for 25 years, family-owned business, blah, 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 blah. And I'd say, yeah, that's good. That's nice. But the problem is and I'm not going to waste a lot of time on advice for restaurants, but if you're a restaurant, take some free advice from somebody who's had successful advertising campaigns in that area. I'd say, what do you want? What is that doing to make me want to come right now to your restaurant? That's just making your regulars feel good, and maybe a couple of people that might think, oh, family owned, No, people want to buy food. They want it's more like Pavlov's dog. All right? They want to be salivating. And so I would show them a Burger King or a Wendy's ad. And I said, look at this ad. They've got this hamburger. Let me get rid of this title card here. They've got this hamburger. In fact, I don't know if I have one here. I'm just to do this because I don't like to talk about anything without explaining it to you. I'll see if I have this here. I believe, I do. And I would say, now look at their ad. All right. Now, this may gross you out if you're a vegan or something like that, vegetarian. But if I'm in the mood for a hamburger, okay, and I'm not a vegan, I don't want to, what's going to make me show up at your restaurant right now? Okay? You saying you've been family-owned business for 25 years, or putting this full screen on the TV and saying, we're open till 11 o'clock tonight. Fresh ground burgers, fresh meat daily, right? Home-baked bread, right? 100%, cheese, no cheese products, fresh tomatoes, grown locally, right? Grass-fed beef. You see what I'm saying? All right? In your face. And so that's what people have to do. Get rid of that image and we'll go back to our thing. I give this free advice all the time to people. And I would create a campaign for them. And suddenly they would realize they had people a line at the door, or the empty tables were now filled. Because people want, you have to appeal to people's senses, to what they really want. And the process, you got to put it in their face is what I'm trying to say. It's got to be in their face. You don't think things out, right? And the problem with with this miniaturization, so when I get back to that, with apps and calendar apps and things like that, is that you have to go to the thing, open it up, maybe get a notification, then open up the app, then look at it on this miniature screen or small screen, right? Maybe scroll, back and forth. But it's not in your face. It's not the big picture. It's not the big burger, juicy burger in your face, right? Or the horrific things, the things you don't like in your face, realizing that. It's like if you want to make a move, if you want to change jobs, right? And so you take this piece of paper, and again, ignore the stuff I've written here. I just wrote this stuff here. I have being homeless on theirs because yesterday we talked about this Mercury News article about these homeless people at Apple, okay? And I wrote an open letter about that. I don't know if Apple's going to see it or not. But how to solve that problem. And one of the things that, like I say, I didn't include in that is that this is the advice to the counselors that you would take when these people come into the tent or trailers that you set up, because this requires an intervention. So you don't just throw money at something. You don't just say we're going to feed the homeless and we're going to throw them in hotels, motels, or we're going to create some kind of project. And as I said yesterday, the projects have failed, all right, because the predators live among the prey. The predators being the gangs, the thugs, and the bums, and the prey being, just regular people, right, who are just down on their luck, who might need a temporary safety net, okay, place to live, food to eat, that's all. But what happens is the predators, these opportunistic predators, right, they come in and the whole thing gets messed up and it becomes gang controlled. Some of the prey become gang members. Some of the prey actually are preyed upon and ruined for life, traumatized for life. And so these old solutions don't work. Throwing money at a problem, building a project, putting them in temporary shelters, all the old systems, right, just don't work. We know that. And this goes back to Johnson's Great Society and stuff. You know, when they first started building projects, all right? All of those areas are well, first of all, they bulldozed down half of them. And the ones that remained, like, the police don't even want to go there. You know? They're like run by gangs. You know, so what good is a Section 8 housing or whatever you call it? You know, what good is a safety net that money's going to if it just is going to, if it's just really going to create a predator society, right? And increase their numbers, you know? It's like, you know, you're feeding the predators and you're starving the prey. So it's a complete failure. It's an utter failure, you know? So the answer is, like I said, is, you know, there are several stage problems. One is like a triage. And that means setting up tents and or trailers, where first things you do is you let people come in, you get some nurses, medical professional type of nurses, you pay them. This is Silicon Valley I was talking about. It's not hard to raise several $1 million. Okay. All right. There's plenty of VC money and different things. And there's ways out of this. You know, some of these homeless people, particularly in these areas, have some skills. They're not like uneducated people, right? You know, because I think my idea is beneficial. Remember, there's 10 million jobs out there that are unfilled right now at the moment. Could be twice that number, actually. You know, because when you take in small towns, local areas, and other stuff, I'm sure they didn't ask the guy down the street who's had a help wanted sign up for 8 months and is willing to pay, you know, a decent wage, not minimum wage, you know, a decent wage with opportunity. So, you know, you times that, and, you know, that 10 million could be 20 million. Remember, it's small businesses were always the biggest employers in this country. So anyway, for step one is to create this triage where you bring these people in and they come in with medical professionals. No way, you know, and you can't scare these people. So they, you know, this is not, you know, forget about politics and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's not like show me your ID, this, that, the other. No, it's go in, this nurse, RN, or some intern, medical professional, right, is going to give them the once over. Take their temperature, probably give them a test for the thing, right? Look over their body for any, you know, infections, any cuts or whatever that have been unattended that could get infected to the point of causing serious illness, you know, that sort of thing. And maybe taking your blood, you know, and then giving them like a bottle of water. You know, these people are usually dehydrated, you know, and that sort of thing. And as long as that person doesn't have some sort of contagious disease or is in need of immediate emergency care. If they are, then they're ushered off to a hospital. That's a triage, okay, or to wherever they need that care. If they're not, if they just needed a bandage on their leg or their arm where they got cut from some fence and maybe needed a tetanus shot because it was, you know, rusty nails through their foot, you give them a bottle of water, you let them get hydrated, and you send them to a tent that's kind of like a catering tent, because they're also going to be malnourished. And that catering tent doesn't have junk in it. It has healthy food. Healthy but tasty food, stuff they'll eat. And so the idea is to check them out, all right? Give them some food and water, all right? Let them sit, relax, be calm, okay? And realize this is a safe place. And then the next step is for them to go into the next trailer, tent, whatever, where you have a series of counselors. And my idea with the Apple idea was that, Apple, iPad, whatever. I would issue each one an iPad. I'd give it to them. It's theirs. And they get an email. Okay? It's theirs. Okay? Because they're probably, they're homeless. They probably don't have any of that stuff. Okay? And at that point, there could be an app created, all right, that would work something like the thing I have on the screen for them on a tablet. But that would be more of a questionnaire. In other words, more to create a demographic profile to find out if this person is in need of serious mental health counseling, right? Or if this person is just down on their luck, right? And this would also decide, be, through algorithm and the questions, the way it's put together, be somewhat, you can never be 100% sure, but that would give indications whether or not this person is an opportunistic predator, right, or not. Because we do not want opportunistic predators mixing with prey. The predators have to be separated from the prey. That's the problem and the biggest failing of the system we have currently. And why throwing money and projects and all kinds of homeless shelters and all those things don't work. Because you've got a mixture. It's like putting gazelles in with lions in the Serengeti and putting them in a box together. It's not going to end up nice. Okay? So that's that. We have to throw out all of the things that have happened from the 60s right up through the present. Money alone is not the answer. You need money to do this because we've got to get to hire nurses, counselors, and we got to have food, and we've got to get these, But we're talking a few $1 million here, all right, to solve this problem. And we're using Apple's property as an example. And this would be a case study, a success story that then can be duplicated, in cities and throughout the country once it's proven successful. And so these counselors would, once you decide that this person is truly someone in need, then you send them on their way and you tell them to do something like this. Their likes, pros, goals, dislikes, cons, all that type of stuff. Go back to another place where you set up where it would be like a homeless shelter, but a safe space where they would have a cot. And it's a place they could, a clean place, a cot. And it could be do you remember what they set up for COVID in New York? And how quickly they did it? Right, the Army Corps of Engineers. They had something like 3,000 beds set up in this place. Do you remember that? It was on TV, right? So you set up some place where you have, if they've got 1,000 or a couple thousand people trying to, sleep. I don't even think it is that many, but if it is, that many are there. Set up this place and give them a cot and basically have these, clean a place for them to give them a little bag with a toothbrush, toothpaste, right? Hand sanitizer, right? And let them get a shower and have a clean toilet and sleep on a clean sheet and a bed and have their iPad with them. Okay? And let them work on this idea, this likes and dislikes, pros and cons, and their goals and what they want. And, and let them, stay there for a few days, And meanwhile, the algorithm will have taken the initial information that they have put into this app and collated that data, and there will be any kind of interventions or whatever that needs to be taking place will take place. If the person is, somehow mentally challenged or computerly illiterate in some way, shape, or form, they can just call a number, right? Or this app can be set up where they can just push a button. I'm confused. I can't figure this out, or I need help, and it's just like a red a bar like on a web page, and then someone would come and contact them and take them back to this counseling center or whatever and deal with that. Otherwise, they would get an email or a notification on this thing. And then this is where we would have community involvement. And they might get job placement, right? They might get sent to a specific temporary housing facility till they could get on their feet. They might be sent to school if they were a certain age, school age, or have some kind of educational thing, or some area, safe area, right? Depending on whether or not there's what the disease situation is, a number of things. This is Silicon Valley, after all. Some of these people may be, homeless, and have like a code background, right? But who knows what? But meanwhile, they've been in this kind of safe, clean space for several days, maybe a week or so. And so they've gotten themselves cleaned, right? Settled, relaxed, calmed, and started to figuring out their likes, pros, dislikes, and and counseling is available to them so that they can, they can move, get a hand up and move to these jobs that are available or schools, right? Or placement within, some, foster care or something, but definitely not just some crazy foster type of situation where the person is just collecting people for the sake of making money. They say predators and prey must be separated. That is the failing of the system. And this whole process must not take more than several months, 90 days tops. Otherwise, you've created a bureaucracy and an endless cycle. And that's where the opportunists come in. Because they go, hey, everybody get the word, hey, we'll just all go. No, this is the idea of solving a problem in a specific area, problem solved, move on to the next. Do you see? All right. And so that's how that problem is solved. Like I say, I volunteer. I'd head up that thing, and I think I could solve that problem in less than 90 days. Right? I'd have to, recruit some VCs and some companies in Silicon Valley to assist and provide various different things. That guy who does like Draper University, he might consider taking one or two people who show promise, if you know what that is. That kind of thing. So, but back to, say that's not you. Say you're just you. And you're just kind of confused and you're not happy and, you're down on your luck. And you're not homeless. All right. But you could be. You're on the verge of it. Maybe you're one of those people that, this whole thing going on with this rent, moratorium and stuff like that. You're about to be kicked out. That's not going to last forever. The courts are going back and forth on that. So whether you thought you could beat the system or whether you were just completely flat broke and couldn't pay your rent, doesn't matter. I'm not making a judgment on that. But the point is you're facing down the barrel of homelessness. Your unemployment is about to run out. Okay? Or you're in a bad situation, a bad relationship, you know. You're fed up with things, and maybe you're overwhelmed. It's like I was saying yesterday. I saw one doctor talking about people who were totally stressed out. One of the things on his list, and he had a whole different list. It's different than my thing. But this doctor had a thing on a list. Don't watch CNN. And what he meant by CNN wasn't CNN. He meant don't watch Fox. Don't watch CNN. Don't watch MSNBC. Don't watch ABC. Don't watch PBS. Don't watch any of that stuff. Get off of social media for a couple of weeks. Don't get yourself overwhelmed and stressed out with things that really don't matter. All right? Politics as pop culture is absurd. You know, pop culture should be like, what hairdo are you going to have? What kind of what's the latest fashion? Right? That's pop culture. You know, there's serious things going on in the world. You know, in the past week, there's been something like a handful of 7+ earthquakes. Now, it's not to say that has never happened before, but it's an odd occurrence to have those strong of earthquakes back to back. And right now, as I said earlier in the show, in Haiti, and now on top of insult to injury, there's a tropical storm that may well hit that area in Haiti that just got a 7-point-something earthquake that's killed hundreds of people. And now they're going to be doused by a tropical storm and winds. You know, there's all kinds of problems in the world. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on besides politics and social issues. Your self-centered issues. These things may be important to you and you can put them on this list, right? But they're not, in the grand scheme of things, they're not life-threatening. If somebody calls you a name or disrespects you, that's not life-threatening. That's like that's insult. That's their problem. That's you see what I mean? We've elevated things to a certain height that are just not that deserving to be elevated to that height. Society's out of control in that regard. It's the same with politics. These are politicians. These are multimillionaires. And besides, they answer to these corporate interests anyway. It's not like they're in charge. They pretend they are. But every bill is crafted by lobbyists, special interests, corporate interests. Who do you think writes the bills? All right? I know. I lived and worked in Washington. That's how it is. That's how it works. Everybody knows that. I mean, anybody who's ever, been involved in that or has their eyes wide open. So back to this, okay? Today, solving problems. Your problem. So, what are the things that you like? And that's the first thing you put on the list. And there's lots of things you like. And this, like I say, this might take you a week or so. You don't have to rush this thing. It's the same with people who have these fears, who get all have anxiety and stress over something that, say something's going to happen, a bill or something ridiculous is due next month. And there's people there that are stressing every day. I don't know what I'm going to do. September 15th, I've got to do this and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I'm like, it's August 15th. Okay? That's 30 days away. Let's not get crazy over that today. All right? Let's solve today's problems today, and let's work towards solving that problem as we get closer to it and along the way. But let's deal with the immediate thing now. That's why I called it, even like in that Apple thing, triage. Let's deal with the immediate problem, the life-threatening things. Let's get that stuff figured out first. Let's stabilize the patient. And then let's move on to dealing with these other issues. All right? That's how you have to approach this. And you can do this part yourself. This is just simple. What I'm talking about here is just say, you don't like your job. You're tired every day. You're unhappy. You went to the doctor and the doctor told you, well, there's nothing physically wrong with you. We took your blood. We looked at this. We looked at that. There's nothing physically wrong with you. You just seem to be stressed out. You just seem to be, you're unhappy, blah, blah, blah. See a counselor, a psychiatrist, right? And so you go see a psychiatrist and they say, yeah, give me $60 or, whatever it is, and come and see me every week for the next, for the rest of your frickin' life. And I'm not saying not to go there, but, go there. But in the meantime, all right, amidst all that stuff, if you're not at, your wit's end, suicidal, if you've got those kinds of problems, call a suicide hotline, right? Go to the emergency room if you've got very, serious problems. But if you're just a regular person that doesn't like your job, is unhappy, is like in this general state of malaise or whatever, and medical professionals have told you there's nothing wrong with you, okay, then take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle of it, and put your likes, dislikes, pros, cons, goals, what makes me happy, what makes me unhappy, and make that list. And start with the things that make you happy. Start with the things that you like. Start with the pros and positive things and your goals. And just keep adding to that list. And again, you're not going to be able to solve this in one sit down at a kitchen table, right? There's things that are going to come to you. You sleep on it. And overnight, you might wake up in the morning and, you'll think about something. Sometimes you'll have a dream and realize something. That's how the human brain works. But you put your dislikes. So maybe you don't like the town you're living in. Like I say, you don't like your job, or you don't like your boss, you don't like this, that, the other. You don't like the friends you have, right? You're tired of TV, the posers and fakers and the YouTube millionaires, right? I don't make any money on this, by the way, at all. If you saw a commercial on this show, I didn't get the money, right? Never have, never will. I'm demonetized. So try that, and then put it there, or leave it on the table, or post it on your refrigerator with a magnet where you can see it. Or if you're embarrassed because you don't want if you live with someone else and you don't want them to see it, then fold it and put it in put it inside a book or something and bring it out when when you're by yourself, and add to it and keep adding to it. But when you get the chance and you're by yourself, put it on a magnet on your refrigerator, or post it on a bulletin board, or stick it with a piece of tape in front of your computer or whatever. If you've got a giant monitor, like I do, then do it in a, one of these programs that allows you to make 2 columns, all right? And then just pull it up when you want to see it, I'm not saying computers are useless. I'm just saying the likelihood of seeing the big picture and really grasping it on some kind of little thing like this is just not, you say, you can't be scrolling down and all that kind of stuff. You really have to be able to see the big picture. And what I'm telling you is just the same way that law enforcement solves missing person cases and crimes by putting things on boards and putting things up and stepping back and seeing it, you will solve your problems that same way. This is a time-proven method. All right? It works. And you can't hold all those things in your brain. You see? Because I just put a couple of things down here, just off the top of my head. I don't know what these things are. This is nothing. You may have 41 likes, or you may have 30 dislikes and only 12 likes. I don't know. But whatever they are, it's going to be a long list. And you have to see there, and you have to see then once you get to that point where you say, I think I've got, this is everything I like. These are all the pros of my life. This is what I want. And these are all things I don't like about my life and I don't like in general. And you have that in front of you. Then you start looking and you start saying, okay, what are the things I can do? Right? See, in other words, if I like sunshine, right? Or say someone put, I like hiking in the woods, or I like the lakes, water. All right. That's on your likes list. And, so then you say, okay, well, how can I, maybe I should move to a place where I can hike, or maybe I should find a place I can do that sort of thing. And if you're in constant state of fear, you're afraid where you live, or you're broke or something like that, then, in other words, the answers are going to come to you by visualizing the things that you like and dislike, the pros and cons, and you can work towards them. So you can and the idea is to cross off as many of the dislikes, the cons, the things make you unhappy. I should have put the thing unhappy on there. Things that make you unhappy, and I can still do that, Preview. If I could open this. No, of course not. But I want to get it, because this is important. So I'm just going to add a little thing to this. Because life is about happiness. And hopefully you can see this. I'm going to save this. Sorry for the delay. You see how I wrote unhappy over there. So likes, pros, goals, dislikes, cons, unhappy. What makes you unhappy? All right. What makes you happy and what makes you unhappy? It sounds almost childish in a sense, but it's not. It's the most important thing in life, happiness. Right? The pursuit of happiness. I mean, that's it. If you're not happy, right, then life is miserable. What kind of life is it? So you have to seek happiness. And seeking happiness means you have to cross off those things on your list that make you unhappy. And you have to put them all down so you know. Because you don't, and you can't hold them all in you. There might be things you just don't realize. And sometimes when you look at this list, you might realize something on the left side will negate the thing on the right side. But it just never dawned on you. The same way a cop looking at some board is going, and with the map and with the pictures and with some other previous case, staring at this thing is going to have this eureka moment and go, geez, look it. Look at those two faces. That sketch that person made it looks exactly like that picture of that person, that license we found at the scene of the crime, which was also located near this point on the map. And that person lives only 2 blocks away from that. Eureka. Get some unis over there and let's bring that guy in for questioning. All right? That's how that works. It's the same in a boardroom or in some creative agency, advertising agency, or a media company. It's like things are put up and it's like, or a gamer's trying to solve a problem with the thing. And they've got it up there and they're looking, they're going, there's the problem. We've got to change the code, this thing, there. We have to do that. That's where people are having their problem. This is the area of difficulty. It's like I showed you with the burger. Don't show grandma, right, who's been, who started the restaurant, 50 years ago. All right, that's well and good and that's nice. But what I would do is shrink down grandma to the end of the commercial and put for over 50 years, home style cooking. But I would have as the major point of the commercial that big juicy burger, if that's what you're known for. You understand? You got to see, you got to find the likes, the dislikes, the important things, the things that matter, and they got to be in your face to solve these problems. It's real, and like I say, it cost you nothing. The show cost you nothing. A piece of paper cost you nothing. You got scrap paper in your house. You probably got some kind of writing instrument. You don't have to go out and buy it. You got a pencil, a pen, a marker somewhere, right? Just do it. Don't be in a hurry, right? Add to the list. And then you got to start crossing off those things that make you unhappy. And, you can't have fear. Just like you can't rush in and you can't solve a problem overnight, you can't let fear freeze you up and prevent you from taking an action. When I moved here, it took me some time, I knew I was overpaying for my apartment. Even though I was making more than enough money to pay the exorbitant rent I was paying like 6 years ago, I didn't really like it. I didn't like the place I lived in, I didn't think it was worth the money. I don't think the business I was running at the time, I don't think the town was appreciative of it in a sense, or got it, right? So I was putting a lot of like blood, sweat, and tears and effort into what I was doing, but I didn't feel like it was really like being appreciated. It didn't make that it wasn't paying the bills. It's just that, from a creative standpoint, I felt I was like, wasting my time. So I was paying a lot of money. I wasn't happy with even though I was self-employed, I wasn't happy with my own created job situation. I didn't particularly, have a lot of people around me that were, I felt were good friends. I felt some people were stabbing me in the back. And so, and there was and plus, and there's some other things. I was spending too much time sitting at a computer, so I was unhealthy. I gained weight and different things like that. I had a lot of things on my dislikes list, things that made me unhappy. And so I said, I've got to make a change. And I went to I started looking at like Zillow and some of those kind of places online at properties. And I found a place where my rent, it's not rent, my mortgage taxes and insurance, my rent before I was leaving, before I left, my rent and cost of living was costing me almost $2,000 to be in that place I was in before. That was like renting. But my mortgage, when I came to buy this place, my mortgage, taxes, and insurance are under $200. Okay? So it's like a drop of, in other words, I'm paying like 10% of what I was paying before. Now, I haven't fulfilled all the lists, all my likes here necessarily, but I eliminated my dislikes. You see? And that's the thing. There's no guarantee that you're going to create utopia and have nirvana and reach some kind of state of, ecstasy. There's things that with the balance, life is a balancing act, and you have to basically sometimes take the good with the bad here and there. But the idea is to diminish the things that are eating at you, stressing you out. And to be unhappy is no way to be, is no state of living, right? That's just no way to live. So you have to get rid of those things. And sometimes it will take time. Now, in my case, it was a matter of moving. And so I moved. And I found a place that was very inexpensive, a house that no one wanted, kind of a fixer-upper type of thing. But I was move-in ready, though. I moved in. And there's lots of places like that around. And so sometimes you just have to move. You have to say, yeah, but I want to live in this place. Well, if you have all these negatives and the only positive is that, well, I want to stay here, well, you got to wake up to reality sometimes. You can't help yourself, or no one can help you if you won't deal with reality. And that's, again, what this list helps you do. See reality, see the big picture. And again, ignore what I've got written on this list. This is nothing. This is just examples. But, a person like me, under the likes, pros, and goals, what I did achieve here is I have a great music selection, and I have these cool computers, and I have over 10,000 songs. I don't know, maybe 20,000 songs. I have a backyard where I could lay down in a chair and get sunshine any day it's sunny. I grow a garden, and I'm free. I have my freedom. Even during this lockdown and this craziness that's going on in the outside world, I don't even have to go anywhere. And you know how it is today. I complain about these delivery services, because they screw up. Let's face it. I'm still waiting. Amazon, it was supposed to deliver a package Friday, and it never even came yesterday. It's like, and I know what's going to happen. They're going to end up saying it was lost, which means some clown at the post office stole it, right? And it's probably even on camera, but they can't fire them because, it's some kind of civil servant, thing. You can't fire somebody even though you catch them, doing something. And the thing is, then they'll say, okay, we'll refund your credit card. Well, no, I don't want to refund the credit card. I want what I ordered. Right? It's the same when I ordered food from this delivery place. Every time I order, there's always something missing, And yeah, they'll refund you. Right? It's not like they're charging you, but if you order 12 items and 3 of them aren't there, it's like, hey, I wanted those 3 things. That's why I used you. Okay. So nothing's perfect. But point of the matter is, I can stay in this house right now if I don't want to go outside. If I'm afraid I'm going to catch some kind of thing, all right? Well, I'll just order the stuff. They drop it on my porch. I never even see the people. And I've got a garden. I'm growing. I'm eating tomatoes every day because I got tomatoes and zucchinis, growing. I had so much lettuce in the first part of the year. It's crazy. Now I'm growing some Swiss chard and it's starting to come up. We've been getting a lot of rain lately. I've got banana peppers, jalapeno peppers, right? And beans growing, stuff like that. So I got food. And, I got music. I got sunshine. So I got the things I wanted. Is it ideal? No. I got a leaky roof I got to deal with, And, I've got my share of problems. And, I don't have the money to get certain things I want to get done. But when it comes down to the list, I crossed off most of my dislikes and the things that were making me unhappy. And instead now my list of likes, pros, and goals and things that make me happy, which I guess I should put on that thing, right? Should have done that. Might as well put it on here. Text. So it's not like you can't do this on a computer. It's just that you have to have a big screen is what I'm saying. See how that magically just came up? So the things is I have the things that make me happy outweigh the things that make me unhappy. And again, I wasn't, years ago when I was first started out, there was a couple times I was homeless for a night or two. I slept in my car in New York a couple of times. I've been flat broke when I was young. Being afraid. Well, I've been in some hairy situations because I traveled around all over. And sometimes, there's some scary people out there, right? The world's not, people find that out the hard way too. They travel to weird areas, or they assume that everybody's nice and that, when people say something about a certain area, they're being, bigoted or something weird like that. It's like, no, don't go to, there's certain areas you don't want to go to. Okay. And that has nothing to do with negativism about the individual or a particular person or, a group of people. It has to do with the area. It's like when I talk about predators and prey, right? You don't go hanging out in an inner city area where a certain gang is in charge, right? You don't go out at 3 a.m. in a neighborhood where is gang controlled, that sort of thing, okay? That's common sense. Don't say, oh, well, these people are exaggerating. They're really not, no. There really are predators out there. There really are gangs. There really are thugs. There really are bums. Maybe we have too many people in the prison system because it's a money-making private venture, and they've got a lot of people in there for things that, are just ways for them to make money. But the fact of the matter is we also have a bunch of hardened criminals in there who are basically guilty of murder, rape, grand theft and assault. Okay? So there are bad people. You have to understand that. I want to make that clear. There are predators and there are prey, just like there are in all sorts of, the animal kingdom. So what I'm saying is pursue happiness, the pursuit of happiness. And you can do it. But you've got to see the big picture. You got to write it down. You've got to take a little time and do it. And your goal has to be to cross as many of those things that make you unhappy, that you dislike, right? You got to cross those things off your list. Sometimes it means getting a different job. All right? But it doesn't mean you just quit your job and then you broke and homeless. What it means is you start looking for another job instantly and prepare your resume and start sending out resumes or interviewing on your lunch break or, or a sick day or something to try to get out of that situation. If you don't like if you think you're paying too much for your apartment, or if you're somebody who has a house that's expensive and high taxes or whatever, blah, 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 then you look to scale down. If you like where you're living, and even though your rent's high, well, then you look at your lifestyle and say, can I cut corners? And sometimes there might be 5 or 6 little things that add up to several $100s, which could reduce your cost of living by a couple $100. I've done that already too. It's as simple as, I cut the cable. I was paying, for cable TV, well, it was satellite TV, and they just kept upping it and upping it and upping it. It was getting close to like almost $100. And I wasn't even watching the damn thing. And like that doctor said, and half the time, if I was watching something, it was just stressing me out anyway. So I just said, the heck, I don't need it. I'm paying for internet as it is, so I'll just go the internet route. I'm a YouTuber anyway. And occasionally I'll get Netflix or, one of these other things. But, you're not on a yearly contract. So if there's nothing on Netflix, I'll cancel it. And maybe if it's a good month, I'll sign up again. And I've done that. I did that with my cell phone. I got rid of my cell phone service. I have an iPhone, but I got a voice over IP app on it, because I basically don't go that many places. And where I go places, they have Wi-Fi. So if I walk down the street, and go to the grocery store, which is about a mile or so, when I'm at the grocery store, I can make a phone call or receive a phone call. Across my house and my backyard, and I could my Wi-Fi covers it. I don't go to Walmart and places like that on a regular basis, because one of the other things I did to reduce my costs was I don't drive. Because I found myself, the only time I was driving was going to pick up groceries or to go to an appointment. And I found out that it was cheaper to, rent a car on a specific time you needed to go somewhere than it was to pay a monthly fee for a car insurance and all that, maintenance and all that kind of stuff. And cars these days don't last that long, and it's not like the old days where you could fix a car. If a circuit board, if you got some computer problem that goes wrong with your car, you're screwed, right? Especially if it's out of warranty. So, there are different ways for different people to do different things. I'm not saying to get rid of a car. Some people, that's their lifeline to everything and their job and everything. But I'm saying in my case, I cut the cord to the TV. I got rid of the car, right? And some other things. I started growing a garden. And I found out that I bought a cheaper house. Literally buying a house was cheaper than renting. And that included the insurance and the mortgage and taxes. So, but to each their own, you have to explore and find those things out yourself. But this is the beginning. This is the first step. Take that piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. What makes you happy? What makes you unhappy? What are your likes, dislikes, pros, cons? What are your goals? And start working towards them. Make the list. It works. It'll help you. It'll be life changing. If you're unhappy, if your unhappy list is really long, especially because you don't want to be unhappy and you don't want to be stressed out. Stress kills. The leading cause of death in the United States is heart disease. And heart disease, while it is food related, diet related in many cases, it's stress. Any doctor will tell you that stress is like the worst thing, for a heart attack. people get in these stressful situations. There's too many people I've seen, overweight and eating hamburgers that, are living to be, in their late 80s, 90s, and they're just happy-go-lucky. And then you see somebody who's living some total stressful life and they keel over at 50. All right? So you got to get stress out of your life. You got to be happy. Pursue happiness. The pursuit of happiness. The best thing about the U.S. of A., all right, was that phrase, the pursuit of happiness. Anyway, I hope this helps you, all right? And that's about all I have to say. So,
Good morning.
Thanks for watching. Visit TonyCaravanLive.com. This is the Rock Flux YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, whatever. Rockflux.com also takes you to TonyCaravanLive.com, which is also tied into my site, GreatSolarStuff.com. Grab a t-shirt. Grab a coffee mug. Get some great solar stuff in case, you see these storms that are happening. We're heading into that hurricane season. There's been some storms out in the Midwest, and then beyond that, it's winter, and power lines freeze, power goes down. I've got all that stuff available. Check it out. It helps support the channel. But I'll be honest with you, nobody's bought anything. I don't know why, And it's not like it makes me rich. I'll be lucky if I get 50-cent commission on like if you buy a mug or something like that. But anyway, I'd appreciate it. Help support the channel. Until then, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.